What is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and SEAL Team 6 and Army Special Forces rescue U.S. diplomats in Sudan. Aid workers are urged to shelter in place. We've been following this Sudan, or the events going down in Sudan, some very, very strange stuff. It says that details emerged Sunday from the dramatic evacuation of U.S. diplomats from the Sudanese capital of Khartoum, while aid workers and other Americans remained imperiled amid the raging warfare pitting rival generals. It says that Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner said that most of the thousands of Americans remaining in Sudan are aid workers or Sudanese Americans. He said that they need to, quote, shelter in place while the U.S. works with international partners to arrange a safe way to get them out. Likely via a land corridor, the violence has paralyzed Sudan's airports, destroying civilian planes and damaging runways. Warner, speaking Sunday on ABC's This Week, commented that the U.S. military and intelligence community for the evacuation of scores of diplomatic personnel and their family. The effort was completed late Saturday. Says that was a dangerous mission to take them out by helicopter, said Warner. So, again, this is looking pretty nuts. We'll talk about this and much, much more, and all of the current events going on, all of the weird alerts that just went out. Of course, the April 23rd alert just went out yesterday to all of the UK, preparing people for who knows what, and of course practicing their new alert to the entire country, kind of like our president's alert or presidential alert. So we'll talk about that and much, much more today on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, if you want to follow along, you can actually go over to marfooglenews.com and look for today's thumbnail. When you go over to marfooglenews.com, you'll see that we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have here today, plus a whole lot more. When you scroll past today's links and sources, you will actually see a bibliography for some extra stuff. Those are all of the stories that we could not fit into the show or the stuff that is not allowed. So remember to go check out the overflow and web content. So again, that's the stuff that will get you in a fight in a bar, if you mentioned. Lots of great stuff down there as well. And then make sure to also go to marfooglenews.com/friends if you want to check out some of our mods channels. Of course, there's lots of great mods in the chat today, keeping it lovely and peaceful. Main thing, though, just a reminder, since we haven't talked about it in a little bit and I haven't made any kind of announcement in probably a month, if you are in the chat, that is a big part of our community, is being able to go over these stories and to be able to bounce back ideas off of the people next to you, to see what the majority of people around you are thinking when we read these stories. It is instant feedback. You are able to see if the majority of people think that it's something that's BS or propaganda or something else. It's also very helpful for, of course, that we all try to make sure that we see, other points of views and get along. It's a very, very friendly community, so make sure if you haven't popped into chat, make sure to do so, but also do so knowing that if you put into it, if you put in positivity into it, that's what you will get back. And I'm hoping that this is something that, where if you get off work, you can go and talk to people that are like-minded, whereas if you're at work, you probably can't talk about a lot of this. So remember that. Again, try to make it a great place for everybody to relax or come and talk about the scary issues without without all of the negative connotation to it. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So there's a lot to go over today, but Dex, I wanted to go back to the SEAL Team 6 and Army Special Forces rescue the U.S. diplomats. Now, there's more folks there, right? It's not just the diplomats. Isn't it more people than just these diplomats? Isn't there still people there?
I'm sure whoever was not in the embassy during the time of the evac would be in that group of people that are still there, whether that's, as they want us to believe, it's just aid workers or Sudanese Americans that have dual citizenship or whatnot. But I'm sure we'll probably be hearing more of that. I think, one of the questions I would ask the story is, what are we doing to get the rest of the Americans out? Or anybody that wants to get out, are we helping them? Obviously, we were quick to help the folks that are in the embassy, but what about the rest?
So I guess one of my points is that, if something like Afghanistan went so bad, if they do have people to get out of there to evacuate, this might turn into a big cluster, or it could be used as a huge distraction that all of the news can cover, meanwhile not covering a lot of the other stuff. I don't know, guys, if you know this, if you haven't been following what has been going on, Bongino actually just got taken off of Fox, and then a couple days later, now today, everybody's talking about how Tucker was just taken off. It may not be a big deal. You might hate Tucker, but there's something to say where there was only one person that was really talking about some of these issues on mainstream media, and he talked about some sensitive stuff this week. So one of the only people on mainstream that mentioned some of the issues he was talking about, and now he's not there. So there's a huge group of people that are pretty pissed off right now. And just in general, the whole country here in the U.S. is completely divided. Things are going really, really bad right now. And, we're looking at things as a prepper standpoint. So this isn't going to be a fun show. It's not trying to be doom and gloom. It's again, something voluntary. The world, if you are reflecting what we see, is very, very scary. Now, there's pessimists and there's optimists. I guess you could call this pessimism, but unfortunately, this isn't going to be from an optimist view, because it isn't realistic, in my opinion, to tell people that everything's okay. I would rather tell people the truth and the reality of the situation, and then have them have a basic plan to build their ark before the flood comes instead of after. So I hope everyone understands that. It is voluntary, so if you don't like scary movies, you definitely want to tune out on my show. Don't stay here if you get easily anxious or something like that with world events that are not rainbows and ponies. I do have faith that everything will work out, even not only for myself, but for the people that also think that way. You should have faith that everything is going to be okay, but at the same time, there are things that are preventable. There are things you can prepare for, and I hope people keep that in mind. Let's see here. So with this, it's going to progress, and we'll see what's going on. It was a firing. Tucker Carlson's exit from Fox was not voluntary, sources say. Now, he was actually touching on some pretty big subjects regarding a certain industry that essentially it makes up about 90% of the advertisements, specifically pharmaceuticals. That's it. And in the last week, he was mentioning some stuff that you really haven't heard anywhere else. Now, people are split on Tucker, even in our community. They go, well, he's this or that, or he's a controlled op, or this or that. But I have seen some of his interviews outside of stuff, and it seems like the guy's a real guy, but maybe that's part of the illusion, right? Seems like he really does have a moral compass. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's what he sells on TV. But as far as him touching on some of these subjects and then being fired, well, they say, oh, it's because of the Dominion thing. They lost over $800 or close to $800 million in this lawsuit because they talked about the whole machines thing. But by firing Tucker, they're actually losing close to $1 billion. Their market share just went down like $900 and something million. So that doesn't really make sense. So, obviously some stuff is going on. It says Fox News shocked the media world Monday morning with a statement announcing the network and its top-rated host have agreed to part ways. The stunning news came just a week after the network's $787 million defamation settlement with Vono Systems and a potentially even more costly lawsuit from Smartmatic still looming. It says in Carlson's own texts and emailed figured prominently in the pre-trial discovery, showing that Fox News executives and on-air personalities privately admitting the same 2020 they publicly promoted were baseless nonsense. So lots of BS there. Again, this whole thing was crazy. And then Carlson's final show that aired Friday night showed no indication he expected to be his last, with host signing off by telling his audience, "We'll be back on Monday." Apparently not. Dex, what do you think happened here? This is pretty crazy.
Well, there's a lot of speculation, obviously, because nobody really knows besides Tucker and maybe Murdoch and whoever is in between them that played a part in the firing. But you know, like you said, the earlier idea around the big farm companies spending a ton of ad dollars can have a lot of control over that. Of course, in this article, they try to tie it to the lawsuit that was recently had. And then in that lawsuit, there was a lot of text messages that were revealed. And some were speculating that a lot of the things that were said that maybe not be directly at the lawsuit, but were directed at, you know, things that were said to about executives in the company. So maybe that could play part of the role too, or maybe it's all three put together. You know, I don't know, but it does seem like that's not good. Like Tucker will survive. I don't know if Fox will, because I think a lot of people watched Fox for him and not much else. So we'll have to see how they weather this over the next year.
Yeah, so the main thing, and it is across the board. If you look, this is Dex, can you just get me one thread with Fox News is dead on Twitter? Because I can't pull it up, otherwise it will tell me to sign in and all that. But if you pull up what it is, there is some pretty funny memes. Basically, everybody is saying that Fox is goners, that was the last one. They fired Bongino, they fired them. They've got some shows that are left, but those shows, especially some of the comedic ones, are just like scripted kind of jokes, making fun of people. I mean, there's shows that really don't touch on anything. Now, there's a huge group of people. Everybody goes, well, I watch Fox or I watch CNN, and they're completely divided. I think both channels had their biases. Obviously, if 90% of your funding comes from something, you're not going to talk about anything bad that comes from those companies that have that funding. So that's a horrid thing. There is no true, independent. There's no independence from, there's no non-biased news channels, at least the mainstream ones, because they're getting paid by those companies. They're literally getting paid by the companies they're supposed to be breaking news about. It doesn't work like that. They're not going to break, bad news about big companies like, say, Target, for example. If Target is one of their main advertisers, they're not going to say, oh, Target mistreats its people, or something like that. Only, using that as a hypothetical, if they are getting 90% of their funding from them. So that makes them beholden to these companies, to these corporations. Corporations has owned the media for a very long time now. And it's a very sad space because there is no journalism. There is no, it's goners. And some folks, even if you are left or right, or if you believe this or that, I don't feel like there's many even journalists left. And I felt like he was somewhat of one. And that's not because I'm on this side or that side. It's because he was breaking stuff out that goes against the norm. You don't see some of the networks, going against the narrative to correct themselves, unless it's part of a bigger narrative that they purposely go against the narrative and admit they're wrong. And months later, I don't know. Our whole country it's really scary because this is where the censorship and everything starts kicking in. He will do much better on his own, but where is he going to go? Is he going to go to Rumble? Is he going to go to somewhere else? Is he, he could probably do way, way better if he did stuff all on his own. But will Fox survive this? I highly doubt it. It's pretty crazy, you know. And then SpaceX Starship rocket blew a huge crater into the concrete launch pad during liftoff. So obviously we talked about how he said that it might destroy the launch pad. Well, it did. So I thought that if this happened, that was the one thing they didn't want to happen, and they were happy that it got off the ground. But they were also talking about if it destroyed the launch pad, they would be in a lot of trouble. It says SpaceX's Starship, the mega rocket from Elon Musk's space exploration company, exploded last week after its first attempted orbital launch. But the rocket wasn't the only thing left in pieces. It said the video shared by La Padre's YouTube account shows a large crater beneath the launch pad's circular launch mount in Boca Chica, Texas. So it says that Starship is the tallest, most powerful rocket ever built, capable of generating 17 million pounds of thrust upon liftoff. And all that power was enough to cause some major destruction and send sand and soil raining down on a nearby town. It says other pieces of equipment, including storage tanks near the launch pad, also suffered damage, which has also raised questions about when Starship may be able to attempt another launch to space. You can see residual debris all over the ground and in the scene below. So again, that picture there at the top, you can actually see it is one big crater. So I just wonder, you know, what are they going to do to fix that? Obviously, it's kind of a trial and error thing. Dex, do you have a comment on the SpaceX launch?
Well, on one hand, it didn't crash and burn at the pad, which would have been different, I think, if all of that fuel had have lit and burned on the ground. You'd probably have complete destruction of everything there, not just a crater. This looks like a lot of work to repair, but that's at least it's repair and not rebuild. But I do agree with and this was the question we had on our show last week, was like, what are they going to do to what updates are they going to make? Because you can't launch something that causes entire towns to be covered in dirt. You can't launch something that causes, giant shards of rock to go flying, across the way and into harm's way. So, and in this case, obviously, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be launching something that destroys the launch pad every time it takes off. So obviously they've got a lot of work to do here besides making the rocket big and making it fly, but also making sure that the pad can withstand it. I mean, I could imagine if this was at Cape Canaveral and they destroyed a pad there, that would probably be pretty upsetting for the Cape. So
yep, and it's speaking of which, like this is the start of, supposedly travel to the moon and Mars. There's lots of crazy theories out there, which again, I like talking about these theories. If this isn't just news, I like talking about some of the crazier things as well. If you've been here for a long time, there's been all sorts of weird theories about what's going on the moon, on the back of the moon. Obviously, China is saying that they're going to start a base there. Some believe, and many have believed for decades, that they have had some sort of moon base up there on the other side of the moon. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. As far as their goals are to get however many, 1 million people to Mars by whatever year for SpaceX to get these people there. Why are they doing it? The same guy admits that he believes that the world is, that humanity's only chance of survival is to be a multiplanetary species. So to get to other planets. What's really going on? Are they ditching us when when we run out of resources? Are they all just going to go and start over? Don't know. And then Be Real B says, I believe I shared the rice issue in a super chat a while back. Beck just covered it. So please pay attention. The rice is, if you're talking about actual rice, yes, I'll have to think about that one. I don't know what you're saying there. Hey, Adam and Dex, fam, I've moved to Rumble. Bible Talk 777. I'm keeping YouTube, but main channel is Rumble. So, served my last strike. Had enough free speech. Bible Talk, I'm sorry. That's what's happening to everybody. And then Melissa Tate, thank you for your support. And Bible Talk, I'll try to get your link there. Has anyone noticed food tasting different without taking Kool-Aid? You mean if you don't take it? food tastes different. I don't know. That might be just because they've got bugs in it. And then Kelly Josie, thank you so much. Kelly Josie again. Susie Bailey Kupti. And then Joseph Newhouse says, hey, I recorded a clip from the show yesterday. Dex Talking and I may have added something too. Huh. Well, again, thank you, Joseph. And then Space Force Chief says U.S. is facing a new era of threats beyond Earth. So it says when General Chance Saltzman took to the stage for his keynote at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs, Colorado this week, his message was simple. The U.S. is in a new era of space activity. The threats that we face are on our on-orbit capabilities from our strategic competitors have grown substantially. Saltzman, the U.S. Space Force's second ever chief of space operations, said in a CNBC interview after the speech, says the congestion we're seeing in space with tracked objects and the number of satellite payloads and just the launches themselves have grown at an exponential rate. It says that I want to make sure that we are thinking about our processes and procedures differently, he said in an interview for CNBC's Manifest Space podcast, his first broadcast interview since becoming the service's highest-ranking military official last November. The message comes at a key moment as space rapidly commercializes and heightened geopolitical backdrop increasingly sees threats extending beyond Earth to a domain from which rules of engagement remain unclear. It says military experts say space is likely to be the front line in any future conflicts, a battlefield that could extend to the private sector and impact civilians in real time. It says look no further than Russia's invasion of UKR as an example. Recall the unprecedented cyber attack on the European communications network of U.S. satellite operator Viasat, just as Russia's soldiers mobilized to cross sovereign boundaries. Saltzman said that the space-based tactics of adversaries like Russia and China run the gamut from the communications jamming of GPS constellation to lasers and dazzlers that interfere with cameras on orbit to prevent imagery collection to anti-satellite missiles like the one that Russia tested in late 2021. It says, quote, we're seeing satellites that actually can grab another satellite, grapple with it, and pull it out of its operational orbit. These are all capabilities that they're demonstrating on orbit today. And so the mix of these weapons and the pace of which they've been developed are very concerning, he said. It speaks to why, despite the wave of fervent debate, the Space Force was briskly stood up in 2019 as the first new branch of the U.S. Armed Services in 7 decades. So it's talking about how, everybody poo-pooed it. I think that was because T-Man was the one who announced it, and whatever he announced, people basically, tried to criticize. Unfortunately, there's a lot of really, really weird events happening from space. And if you've been watching the last couple of weeks of shows, there have been objects coming out of the sky like crazy. And there really isn't a mainstream or any source that's really putting all these together. They'll report one or the other. But I don't know, guys, if you guys have noticed this, there are a ton of different satellite-related stories coming out, and nobody's really talking about why so many are coming out of the sky, or falling out of the sky, or if they're being taken down or something else. Is this a setup for something bigger? Dex, as far as we've covered a lot just in the last 2 weeks of satellites and different objects coming out of the skies, and then an increase in people seeing what they are calling either space debris or meteors or asteroids coming down, right? I think that these might be satellites getting knocked out or something.
Yeah, we're entering into yet another new era of conflict, so to speak. We had cyber, and we still have it. And now we're going to see a lot of this conflict that's going to take place in space. And I think the interesting thing about this, we don't really see what happens in cyber. Sometimes we feel the effects of it, and we probably don't see or know what really happens up in space, if anything, except we occasionally get the glimpse, or more frequently here lately, we get to see fireballs, and we don't know what they are. We don't know if it's a meteor or if it's a satellite, and they tell us it's debris, or they tell us it was, a meteor. They could tell us what they want, but that's all we get. So it's one of those unknowns, but we're going to be hearing a lot more about it, and more so since all of the technology is moving that direction, whether it's moving to get off planet or just moving uh, military capability into space with more advanced weaponry that makes it such a hotbed, just like cyber was such a hotbed. And for a long time, we were constantly covering cyber events. So now I think we're going to start to hear more and more space events.
And this is also something that, this would affect if we are having. There's been a lot of outages too, and a lot of as far as systems going down, and they're always saying that it's a technical glitch. I don't know if that is true. We'll go over to the chat here. What do you guys think is causing all of these outages and all of these systems going down, and whole states and half of the country losing internet and things like this, and satellite and GPS? And by the way, if you can go to down detector and you're seeing these heavy spikes, is this testing for something? Are they going to try to knock out the whole thing? That would be something they would do before an invasion of the U.S. All over the world, they're having all of these issues. What do you? I found Waldo says cyber attacks. Louis Tramposh says pole shift. Let's see here. Ilea says HARP, HARRP. And let's see here. Oh, by the way, David, I don't know if you're here, David. I did get your message. I didn't have time to call you before the show, though. And if you're up after the show, I can call you. Let's see here. Joe Blow, Lisa Mikesell, what is going on? We have Diane Thomas. Cyber Monkey Works tells about them. I actually agree with Monkey Works on his theory of things. I think that they are absolutely lining up for a massive war. And then Kent, when Shuttle blew up, they said had a slight anomaly. Yes, that was pretty funny, actually. Tinfoil Hat, what's going on? Joseph Burbo, Alien 222. I will check that out. And then satellites are being taken out by space debris. Lots of rocks and asteroids coming our way. Melissa Emery. Again, there's a lot of people that agree with you, too, that the theory is all of this is happening because we're going through some sort of debris field. I don't know what to believe anymore. I do believe that they know about, something coming our way. I bet there's a bigger one that they know about, and that's why they're doing DART and Hammer and Hayabusa and Osiris Rex and Osiris Apex and all of these other, asteroid-related missions. What do you guys think? Let me know. But we're definitely headed into a new time, and it's not just above Earth, it's on Earth. With everything going on with AI, with the wars, with space, I think that something massive is coming, and unfortunately, there's not much we can do to stop it. And then the Saudi Crown Prince wants to build $1 trillion utopia in the desert. His deals with China reveal a darker vision. Who isn't working with China right now? Dex, do you want to cover this? This is pretty nuts.
Yeah, so this is sort of an update. We've talked about this plan for this long skyscraper that's built in the desert that's got like a mirrored reflection on it. I think you can see it in the picture there, and you'll remember what it is we're talking about. But what's now being discussed is with all of the recent deals that the Saudis are making with Xi and their visit and everything, that they're looking to use surveillance technology that Xi has deployed in his country, and looking at that as a model for how they're going to run this structure that they're building, or this 100-mile long vertical skyscraper that has arenas and people being able to live and work there, and it's supposed to be huge, massive 100-mile long buildings. But they're trying to create a smart city. Obviously, that's part of their plan, but also they want to have the same capability that they're seeing from security point of view, and I would refer to that as probably more like social credit scores, and the integration of that with the tech and the capabilities of what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do. All of that would be part of the system they're trying to buy. So that's what it is. They're looking to buy that. It's sort of now showing that other countries are starting to take up this whole notion that that China has done a pretty good job of showing how well it works for them to control a population.
Ian DeBow says if it's 100 miles long, then it's not a 15-minute city. I don't know about that. When you talk about the transportation system that they're going to have, it's going to have, it's a straight line. So they can actually have you go from one end to the other on a mag train, something that just and goes to different, and then to have different layers. They plan to have different levels, kind of like how airplanes in the sky have these layers. They're also going to have flying drones going through the middle, and even ones that will go up above, fly up above, drop down wherever you need to go. So 100 miles, I don't know if you're going, so say in 15 minutes, you would have to be going at least 400 miles per hour to get to one end to the other in 15 minutes. I don't think that this takes it out of the reign of a 15-minute city. But also it could be a 15-minute city, even if it's 100 miles long, it could be multiple blocks. So you could have, I live on G block, which is 60 miles away from one of the ends. This is what is really nuts about this is happening. They've started this. And I just wonder what their budget is going to be for cleaning the birds off of the windows. This it's meant to look like when you look at it, you're just looking at a mirror. But if you've seen the interior designs, it's absolutely nuts. It is just crazy. And this is what is happening in our lifetime. They're making this. And it's supposed to have all sorts of things. I mean, like the inside of it will be this crazy, city. And people think, oh, no, they won't. This is going to happen. And it's part of this whole new system that's coming about. We're going to talk about more in just a little bit, but look at all of the countries that are now switching sides or distancing themselves from the U.S. The dollar is on a downturn, which, eventually it has to happen. The dollar is based on a system where they borrowed the first one and essentially borrowed that first one with interest. How do you do that? We'll talk about that more. I'm actually going to be doing a show on that, or a video. And then Japan gets ready to shoot down North Korea's spy satellite debris. Some more debris coming out of the sky. Before we do that, I do want to remind everybody there are limited units left of the X2 if supplies last. If you do want to go get those, again, you can get our special discount at marfooglenews.com/energy if you use the discount code Marfoogle. This is a UPS seamless backup supply. It's a solar generator, so that means if you get one with that's packaged with solar panels, you can actually just put the panels out and you'll have unlimited power from the sun. You can also charge it from your wall. In fact, this one comes with a fast charger that charges it in about 75 minutes to 100%. And of course, this is absolutely silent, which means that nobody else is going to hear it. Nobody is going to hear it from 3 blocks away running. And in an SHTF situation, nobody's going to know that you have power. You can also run it inside. You can bring it with you and put it in the car seat next to you. That's what's awesome about this. There's no harmful fuels or combustion gas coming out of it. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. And then if you really want to get a absolute system, then I would highly recommend going for the Flex 1500. It's expandable up to 96 batteries. It can be modded, and now with the all-new UPS rapid charger, this system, rather than an EPS, emergency power system, this can actually be an uninterrupted power system as well when you add in the Lego-like mod of the Flex UPS rapid charger. That also charges the Flex incredibly fast, so that is a really good addition to it. So make sure to go check that out. And it can be modded to actually triple the input. There's actually a mod that can allow it, instead of 4 max panels, you can actually put in a Lego-like block that's about half the size of a battery and plug in 12 panels, thus tripling your charging time or cutting it in a third. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy. It helps support us. You get a special discount, and you're helping independent news at the same time. Thank you guys for doing so in advance. And then Japan is getting ready to shoot down North Korea's spy satellite debris. It says that Japan's defense chief on Saturday ordered troops to activate missile interceptors to get ready to shoot down fragments from a North Korean satellite that may fall into Japanese territory. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un said earlier this week that its first military spy satellite that will be launched at an unspecified date. North Korea has test-fired about 100 missiles since early last year, saying it was responding to joint U.S.-South Korean military drills that it calls an invasion rehearsal. Several of the missiles flew over Japan or landed off of the northern Japanese coast. Last week, North Korea test-launched a solid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time. Defense Minister Yakakuzu Hamada on Saturday instructed troops to ready the PAC-3 surface-to-air missiles in southwestern Japan, including Okinawa and nearby islands, in an area believed to be under a flight path of a North Korean rocket that will carry the satellite. He also ordered the deployment of destroyers equipped with the SM-3 ship-to-air missiles to coastal waters, according to the ministry statement. It says, "We are making the necessary preparation because of a possibility of issuing an order to destroy ballistic missiles and other objects." It says an order to fire missiles has been approved by the Prime Minister. North Korea is expected to carry out more weapons tests as the United States and South Korea continue their joint air exercise next week. So Japan is getting serious, and this is, again, something I was told to watch Japan 6 or 7 months ago. Things are going down there. Of course, Shinzo Abe was taken out, and then even the current president, he had an attempt on his life. They're changing their constitution, and they changed it overnight to where they're going to be an offensive country. But for them to say that they're basically giving the order to knock things out of the sky, this is something that could cause a massive war. Dex, this could really fire things up.
Yeah, on one hand, it sounds like they're worried about debris, but on the other hand, it sounds like they're just worried about anything that's being fired. So if they try to take out Kim's satellite launch, even without it necessarily falling apart or falling towards them, if let's just say they try to take it out, that will be a huge escalation. I get why. I mean, obviously, this stuff has been going over their island. We've said it every time he launches something that heads over their island, and they have to tell their citizens to, seek shelter and sound off, sirens and stuff. That's kind of scary. So at some point, you're going to say enough's enough. And it sounds like they're at that point. If they're locking and loading and ready to go, and that's the thing. We don't know when he's launching. But he did say he's speeding it up. So it could be soon. He doesn't usually make those kind of statements and then nothing happens for 6 months.
I just wonder if this is some sort of weapon and they know it. If they, whatever they're launching to launch their first spy satellite, I just wonder if this is actually something else, if it's a super EMP or something like it. And then China-Singapore plan military drills as Beijing forges defense ties. It says that China and Singapore will hold a joint military exercise as soon as this week, their first combined drill since 2021, as Beijing deepens its defense and security ties with Southeast Asia, a region with strong existing U.S. alliances. The Chinese Navy will deploy a missile-bearing frigate, the Yulin, and a mine-hunting ship, the Chibi, to the joint maritime exercise, which will last from late April to early May, the Chinese Defense Ministry said in a statement on its website on Monday. It says without specifying the location. 2 years ago, China and Singapore held a combined military drill in international waters with the southern tip of the South China Sea following the upgrade of bilateral defense pact in 2019 to include bigger scale exercises among their Army, Navy, and Air Force. The deeper China-Singapore military cooperation comes as a time of heightened tensions in the South China Sea, an area spanning 3.5 million square miles, that is often traversed by Western navies, including U.S. vessels conducting the freedom of navigation operations. Such passages annoy China, which lay claims to nearly all of the South China Sea despite their international ruling to the contrary. In late August last year, the U.S. military conducted its expanded Super Garuda Shield exercise with Indonesia that saw the participation of Singapore, Japan, and Australia for the first time. Around the same time, China sent fighter bombers to Thailand in a joint Air Force drills codenamed Falcon Strike 2022. Yeah, Falcon Strike 2022 makes you think, right? And then both countries say the exercises in northeast Thailand near the border of Laos were defensive in nature. The drills last summer also took place against the backdrop of elevated tensions in the Taiwan Strait following the visit of the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the democratically governed Taiwan, which China claims as its own. So, and the more we're going to see more and more of this, China is trying to expand its military. China is trying to take notes. They're not even taking notes. They're trying to copy U.S.'s success in spreading out their bases. They're trying to do exactly what the U.S. did. The U.S. not only had this financial hold, but it also had a military hold all over the world. The U.S. still has the most bases around the world, and China has taken notes on that. China is trying to make alliances on top of its economic advantages that it's building. It is now trying to spread out and put bases all over the world, and they even may build islands in the future right off of countries. That's what they're building the technology to do. They're trying to build bases in random places all over the world in the oceans. This is really... these drills, by the way, we cover because these drills can always turn into something way bigger. Drills are a good way to move a lot of military around without causing a lot of alarm. Dex, do you have a comment on teaming up with this and this team up?
Well, it's certainly a good response, I guess, in connection with what we're doing with the Philippines. So I imagine we may see a few more of these so that they can add to what they've done around Taiwan. So in addition to Taiwan, which is the obvious thing, seeing them do more drills, especially with the big events we got going on with the Philippines there, makes a lot of sense.
And then do you want to talk about the Taiwan is tracking a Chinese carrier off the southeast coast?
Yeah, absolutely. So this carrier group it's a whole carrier group. It was the same one used just recently in the exercises they did surrounding the island, and they thought it would have been over, but apparently no. It decided to hang out. So it is about 120 miles south. That group has been sticking close to Taiwan, and they have actually been. Taiwan has been been tracking it and deploying or responding appropriately based on any actions that it's doing, is what their statement is. I don't know exactly what they've deployed, but apparently it is still in play. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And again, we go back to the things that they've done to Taiwan. It seems like every time they get closer and closer, not that this is any closer. I mean, 120 miles is still a little bit of a distance, but hanging out, or like last time they started crossing the median line, and then they started doing it daily so they could normalize it. So now, they got a carrier group that was in as part of the exercises, but now the carrier group's hanging out and it's going to stick around longer. So, are these the types of things that China is doing to normalize its presence around Taiwan, to prepare for that invasion and to make it harder for them to know when it's real and when it's just a drill?
Well, and China, the distance from Taiwan to China is about 120 miles. So to have this off of the other side and to have it the same distance, it's almost like, they're setting up. If they do this and they leave that there and they continue this, they could end up do this with another one in a couple weeks and then just let it hang out and essentially have the alarm go down from it being there. And then slowly they could build up a huge force surrounding it. And then when they do attack, they could swoop in. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, being that it's at the south, it's also in between the area in which the Philippines and the exercises we're doing down there. So it's kind of between the Philippines and Taiwan. So obviously closer to Taiwan since it's only 120 miles off. But I wonder if its position there is specific to the fact that we've got those that we had those drills going on with the Philippines.
Oh yeah, they don't like the connection with the Philippines. They don't like any of. So we have to squeeze them with their neighbors. We have to. If they have a freedom, if we're not surrounding them, they can break out. If the hypothetical happens where they end up taking over some of their neighbors and they take Taiwan, it will be this. I mean, this is a move towards world domination on China's part. I don't see how people can see it any other way. Taking Taiwan is is part of a bigger plan. If you look at what Xi is saying, if you look at what their culture is essentially trying to do, I mean, they're very clear. They do not want to be number 2. They don't want to be number 3. They want to be number 1. And they've taken every single step to get there. They are doing the exact actions, textbook, to try to take over the world. I mean, it's really clear when you look at everything they're doing around the Belt and Road Initiative. He's taking notes from Genghis Khan, who, again, was one of the people that took over the most. I believe Genghis Khan took over more land and more world than anyone else before he died. So they're taking notes. It's not like they forgot how they did that. UKR troop positions spark counter-offensive speculation. It said that Ukrainian military forces have successfully established positions on the eastern side of the Dnieper River, according to a new analysis, giving rise to speculation Sunday that the advances could be an early sign of Kiev's long-awaited spring counteroffensive. The Institute for the Study of War, a Washington-based think tank, reported late Saturday that geolocated footage from pro-Kremlin military bloggers indicated that Ukrainian troops had established a foothold near the town of Oleksy, along with the stable supply lines to their positions. Analysts widely believe that if UKR goes ahead with the spring counteroffensive, a major goal would be to break through the land corridor between Russia and the annexed Crimean Peninsula, which would necessitate crossing the Dnieper River into the country's south. It says, responding to UKR media reports proclaiming that the establishment of such positions indicated the counteroffensive had begun, Natalie Helm, the spokeswoman for UKR's Operational Command South, called for patience. While neither confirming nor denying the ISW report, she said that only details of the military operations in the Dnieper Delta couldn't be disclosed for operational and security reasons. They added that it was very difficult work when it's necessary to overcome an obstacle such as the Dnieper when the front line passes through the wide and powerful river. Kremlin installed head of Carlson region, one of 4 parts of UKR that Russia said it was illegally annexing in September, denied on Sunday that UKR forces have established a foothold on the east bank of the Dnieper. In a Telegram update, Vladimir Soldo said that the Russian forces are, quote, in full control of the area, and speculated that their images referenced by the ISW may have depicted UKR sabotage units that managed to take a selfie across the Dnieper before being forced back. Basically saying that the UKR soldiers ran over and went, "Hey, we're here," and then ran back across. It said after more than a year since the Russian invasion, recent fighting has become a conflict of attrition. We hear that so many times, by the way. It's a war of attrition. I don't know that. We don't know what the truth is on this because, we don't know if the leaks are true. It sounds like a war of somebody is getting their asses handed to them. And it's a debate on which side, right? But common sense prevails usually. Dex, basically, we should look at this and say if they very well may be starting this offensive. There's more and more chatter about it, but we don't know if it's true. We don't know if it's Ganda, but you would think, this is probably going to go down whether it leaked or not.
Yeah, that's correct. And we've talked a lot about the rhetoric that's come out saying there's going to be this offensive, and we don't know what that is other than we've heard. Obviously Crimea being one of the goals, that's a stated goal, is to reunite and to take it back. And then obviously push Russia out is the other goal, and get back what Russia claimed and land since February of last year. So, but where they've crossed or where they're positioning is in line. It's in that area. It's near Carlson, but it's headed down towards, if you sort of look on a map, it would be the path in which you would take to get to that the Crimea area. So yeah, this could be the start of that. And if that's the case, then maybe this offensive, as they've been, pitching all this time, may actually be coming, and we'll have to see if they can pull anything off with that.
Indeed. Thank you, Johnson, over on D Live. Fugel fam, may love of the Holy Spirit be upon you. Johnson, thank you so much. CJ1969, thank you for following. Crazy Taco, Roy Baser, Chance Paladin, thank you for hosting. I appreciate you. Also, go check out Chance's YouTube channel, his Amazon links. He has books over there. He's a great author. He's got multiple books now. And then, of course, his link tree and his Amazon link are over on marfugelnews.com/friends. Ecto1, thank you. Vault, thank you. And Steve-O, thank you. Achilles and Hopkinson, Skyhouse, and everyone else over on DLive. Thank you for supporting Independent. I appreciate that. And Melissa Tate, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Ray the Way, if you watch the movie Dread, they have mega structures with whole cities in them. It's based on the near future in a nuclear event. What's crazy is the structures are surrounded by deserts, says Ray the Way. The movie Dread, they have mega structures with whole cities in them. Huh. So after a nuclear event, they would have cities inside of buildings protected, right? I'll have to check that out. And then it's not Judge Dredd. That's the only Dredd I've thought about with 2 Ds, right? And then Zelda says, check out Blue Mountain TV with Nineveh to Nashville. Meteor to destroy the Parthenon and homes in the area. Zelda, I will check that out. Is that how it's spelled? Okay. And then K. Parker Fraser, thank you so much. And then Zelda, 2030 and MG discussed rice will be possible to find due to weather and China keeping all of it by now. I've heard a lot of stuff about, so that was referencing actual rice. Yep. The rice issue in a super chat a while ago, Be Real Beast. And you are correct. There's a lot of really important issues regarding farming. Look at all the billionaires that are buying up the farmland. It's kind of obvious. Something is about to go down. And let's see here. Before we talk about Russian issues, warning to G7 idiots. The offensive could begin soon. Essentially, a lot of chatter about the offensive. I do want to remind you, if you want to protect yourself against EMP, then make sure to go over to marfugelnews.com/EMP. This is a device that you can put in your cars or trucks or any vehicles, including boats and, of course, ATVs and motorcycles. This will protect you against not only an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, it can also protect you against a CME or a Carrington level event plus. So again, check this out. Go to marfugelnews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be working with the same company that is outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and of course now helping the Texas grid on the DEMSO team. Go to marfugelnews.com/EMP. I wouldn't wait to build your ark after the flood. I would do it before. This will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your devices. So it will definitely be, this will come in clutch in any kind of electrical event. And then Russian issues a warning to G7 idiots. Ukraine offensive could begin soon. Live updates. Dex, do you want to cover this and what's going on with the...
The main idiot comment here is, if you recall, we spoke last week about how the G7 was calling out and looking to do new sanctions, and they were saying complete sanctions, like nothing would be able to go into Russia from the West. So basically, what they're saying is, hey, we're going to call you idiots, but at the same time, we're going to say if you do that, then we're going to have a total ban on, if you do the total ban on the exports into our country, then we're going to shut down the grain that is flowing. So all of the Black Sea grain deal that they allowed, that allows the grain and the feed that's coming out of UKR, there was a deal put in place that allowed that to proceed and allow it to continue going out. Because obviously that export was needed and to be imported by a lot of other countries that rely on the grain coming from UKR. So Russia is saying they're going to shut that down immediately if they put these sanctions in place. So that will have an effect. If that does happen, the grain deal is kind of a big deal. It's not necessarily directly here in the U.S. I don't know how much grain we actually take there, but a lot of other countries do. And when you shut off that supply, then they're going to turn to other locations looking for supply because they don't want to starve. To which case, it's going to make grain go up for everyone else in the world, especially wheat. I think is a specific grain that comes out of there. So, keep that in mind. We'll have to see how it plays out. Again, right now it's just war of words, so to speak, between them. But we have not seen actual sanctions come forward. They were suggesting them, and we have not seen them shut down this grain deal yet. Obviously, that would be in retaliation. So sit back and watch, and we'll see what happens.
And then Dex, you want to talk about some of the first news we've seen about these sea drones, and I've talked about these now plenty. But you want to talk about how UKR, under this, says that they attacked Russia's main naval base in Crimea with exploding sea drones, the city's Russian governor said.
Right. So headed on the heels of this notion of an offensive, especially going towards Crimea, having these new initiatives go off with, in this case, sea drones taking out potential ships and other things in the ports around that area. They're saying they're seeing success. So they're saying that UKR actually did attack the naval base there in Crimea, and they did it with the sea drones. So that's kind of a new expansion. We also, if you recall, about a year ago, they did sink the one ship. I think a lot of that was done probably with the help of the West, even though nobody wanted to say it. At very minimum, coordinates were given, but maybe even more so, equipment was used to actually participate in that. We don't know for sure, but that sinking was a big deal at the time. And now, as we see them add in their capabilities with these sea-based drones, which I'm sure are pretty simplistic and rude and crude, but they're probably very effective, are going in and attacking this particular naval base. And this is, again, in Crimea, where we're just reporting that they're potentially starting their offensive to head into that area.
And you got to look at the technology that both China and Russia have on that end. UKR is obviously using probably some crude or simple stuff, or they could be using the USA's advanced stuff, which might come out later. We will probably see an article in about a week saying that they've claimed that the U.S. let them use some sort of advanced tech that the U.S. has. One thing that I think about is what China has been testing with these port-busting torpedoes and the possible drones that could be real, could be not. That Russia says they have these drones that can do these nuclear tsunamis. It's kind of trippy that all of these attacks are being done with drone technology. Now drones have made this a conflict that is completely different from any past conflict. Drones are going to change the next war. The next war is going to be bonkers. We're going to have robots, drones, and of course autonomous jets and all sorts of things coming up very soon. And then Ukrainian officials plan mass strikes on Moscow and other cities with everything they had, but they stood down after U.S. intervention. Oh, the heroes came in. Or maybe something got leaked. I don't know. Officials in Kiev were planning strikes on Moscow, among other targets, on the first anniversary of the President Vladimir Putin's invasion of UKR. But U.S. intervention led them to stand down, the Washington Post reported. So, by the way, I would love for you guys to all chime in. Do you think this is BS, or do you think that this is... what do you guys think about this, by the way? Because they're saying that they were... And by the way, Russia was putting all of this air defense in. It seems like they were prepping for something to come at Moscow. They're talking about hitting the capital in Russia. That's a huge, huge escalation if they are attacking inside of Moscow. And, of course, they've put the anti-air and all of the different SAM missiles all over Russia, including at, supposedly, Vlad's personal residences. It says the Post reported that Major General Krylo Budanov, who leads UKR's military intelligence operations, known as the HUR, instructed an officer to get ready for mass strikes on the 24th of February. It says, adding that the attacks were executed with everything the HUR had. Budanov's reported instructions. A couple of days before the one-year anniversary, though, the CIA sent out a report noting that the HUR had agreed at Washington's request to postpone the strikes. So CIA said, oh, no, don't do that. We're not telling them to go left or right or to go wherever. We're just basically controlling the thing, right? This is a conflict between the U.S. and Russia with a proxy of UKR. That's just my opinion. What's yours? Dex, it's basically they said, no, don't do it yet. And they, okay. Do you think that this was even a real thing?
The key word is yet. They said postpone. That means do it later. So we gotta think: is this going to happen soon? Was there a new date? And is that coming up as part of this quote unquote offensive? So we've talked a lot about how, they've had the capability to reach across, and now they've got more capability to reach across. So if they, were ready in February, are they ready today? And are they going to actually do something? Because that will change the game, so to speak. At least it should, as far as how Putin responds. If he has massive attacks onto, into his soil, that's going to change the whole narrative, so to speak, for the citizens around that he's, responsible to. So,
well, considering,
that's going to be that would be a game changer if it's significant. If it's just a little onesie twosie thing, it can slide by. But if it's a big onslaught, that'll be big.
Well, considering that, that Russia believes the U.S. and has said in every public forum that they believe that the U.S. is 100% behind this. If we start hitting the capital of Russia, this is going to get bad. What do you guys think is going to happen if we destroy? I shouldn't say we, but technically, if UKR goes in there and strikes everything, just sends a barrage of everything at Russia and hits multiple targets all over Russia. What do you guys think is going to happen next? Do you think Russia's going to go, oh, good one, guys, good one. Okay, now let's continue fighting on the front lines. At the very least, I think that would be what could trigger a massive cyber attack. 93% of the cyber experts that Davos meeting, which the Davos is the most elite people, all the creepy folks that you're worried about, they were all at that meeting. 93% of the top most elite cyber officials said about a few months ago, said that they believe there is an extremely high possibility of a catastrophic cyber event happening in the next 2 years. They're referring to this and all of the conflict, everything that's going down. I think that if this does escalate in Russia, what's going to then happen if we then get involved, NATO gets involved, all of these 300,000 plus soldiers, it could be closer to 700,000 plus more going, 700,000 soldiers in NATO along the border of Russia, not only changing the rules so the country's not involved, they're going to permanently place soldiers along this thing. NATO gets involved. All of a sudden, then I think that's when China and Taiwan start, is after we are fully involved with Russia and all of that stuff over there, then it's a two-front conflict. Then we're supposed to help them too. This is when stuff gets a lot worse. So, and I don't want vindication here, because when it gets a lot worse, that's when everything happens. That's when all of this stuff goes down. This is why we're telling people to prep now, to have your ducks in a row now. Everyone has had so much time to just get a basic thing going. People, you don't need to have, it would be awesome if you had a bunker and all that, but you don't need to have all that. You need to have a basic plan with your friends and family. Like, this is something I guarantee you, at least if this all gets out there, if more and more people get a basic plan, we are going to be better off as a country. So hopefully people are sharing this out, trying to not only just sharing our show, but just share the information within. Like, tell your friends and family to have a basic plan. This is really going to happen, regardless of what you think the agendas are, this or that. We're about to go through some really crazy stuff. A cyber event is the most possible because it doesn't their consciences are clean. It's not going to take lives by itself. What takes lives is the infrastructure going down, is the time after that. And in their opinion, I bet you they think, well, we've given them warning. DHS gave them warning. Oh, we told them to have 6 months of food and water and everything else. I bet you their conscience is clean. Look at what all the richest, most elite, most connected people are doing. They're prepping. At the same time, they'll publicly go, oh, look at these crazy people prepping. But who's the ones getting the bunkers put in? Who's the ones ordering years of food? Look at the freeze-dried food, for God's sakes. Look at how the prices have gone up. That shows the demand. The demand has skyrocketed. Look at the golden passports and how all of these rich and elite are getting backup passports. They're all about to ditch out after this goes down. Like this is, and by the way, I wonder if they're really in the know, we'll see a huge migration of people out of the U.S. in a single day, I bet you, and nobody will be saying anything. There will be no official news that triggers it. We'll just all of a sudden see a ton of people travel out of the U.S. I mean, this is really close. This is too close for comfort. And about 120,000 more mobilized Russians are waiting to be deployed to UKR. That's according to UKR's side, of course. It says that Russia has not sent about 120,000 more conscripts to UKR out of the number it called up earlier. Some of them simply can't be deployed. So this is where they put their spin on why they're not deployed. Again, if you guys have your own thoughts, let me know what you first think of. It says, it's an interesting question. How many conscripts have not yet been deployed to UKR? About 120,000, the number that was already officially called up at that time. It says he clarified that it is about conscripts who are on the territory of Russia. It says they cannot all be deployed. You have to understand that because there are losses. There is some ongoing work and someone has to do it. Since the losses are quite significant, this personnel shortage must be compensated by someone. Budanov added that the situation with mobilization in Russia is proceeding normally. As the chief of UKR's defense intelligence states, the occupiers mobilized 20,000 per month on average. He clarified that this is a generalized figure. So, Dex, it makes it sound like it's because there's failures and that's why, or that they can't be deployed because they're replacing other. I think it's because they're mobilizing all these folks for a different and future conflict. This isn't for UKR. What is your opinion, Dex?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite possible. I think, again, this is coming from UKR, so it's always interesting when you hear their perspectives. And I think, they had conscripted something like 500,000 people or 300,000 and upwards of that. And that was in the last round. So, for them to say there's still another 120,000 out there that haven't entered the conflict, that's a big number. And we'll have to, that's just their point of view. Now he's saying it's 20,000 a month. So that's, going to get them a few more months of adding at that rate. But he's also suggesting that they don't have the capability to bring them online because of the great number of losses they've had. And of course, that's what they would say from UKR's point of view. They're not going to not sugarcoat the message in a way that makes them look good.
Yep. And it's funny because they're so blatant about it on both sides. It's funny how they put things. It's kind of like how they spin things at the White House. Every country does it. They spin things. And then Iran ships 300,000 artillery shells and over 1 million rounds of ammunition to Russia within 6 months. This is according to the the WSJ. I'm forgetting the journal.
Wall Street Journal.
I was saying Washington Street Journal. I was having a mind blank. It says Russian ships have been transporting large quantities of Iranian-made artillery shells and other ammunition across the Caspian Sea to resupply Russian troops fighting in UKR, causing an increasing problem for the United States and its allies who are trying to disrupt cooperation between Moscow and Tehran. It says cargo ships have transported over 300,000 artillery shells and 1 million rounds of ammunition from Iran to Russia in the past 6 months, according to officials by the Wall Street Journal. As people familiar with the matter state, intelligence on these shipments was passed on to the United States. Officials in the Middle East said that the last shipment of weapons known to have crossed the Caspian Sea to Russia left in early March aboard cargo ship Razmul Kosmatov. One thing I want to point out is, remember when they said that they were out of artillery, that they were out of missiles, that they were out of all of this stuff? All of that was just BS. This whole time, they have had allies helping them with everything. They have no shortage, which also points out, so we know what UKR is getting. UKR is getting everything that NATO sends in, and that we are paying, the tax dollars are sending these billions of dollars. But there was always this narrative that Russia is totally failing, that they've got their tail between their legs, that they're complete morons, that they're losing, they're unorganized, they're everything else. There's media infiltration here. Obviously they're making everybody think, oh, we're totally winning. This is a conflict that you want to support. It's for world security, everything else. I think it's because the truth is something entirely different, and we don't know exactly what it is. But in my opinion, I believe it's because we are about to go into World War III, and there's a lot not being said. There's a lot of different stories going different ways, and they are preparing for something much bigger, and they can't stop them. They're trying to tell us that they are possibly even pushing a lot of this. Look weak when you are strong. Look strong when you are weak. This is some Sun Tzu Art of War stuff. So they're not having any shortage if this is true. And then it says publicly available shipping data suggests that the Razul Gazmatov left the Iranian port of Bandar Amirabad on 8th of March and arrived in Astrakhan in Russia 6 days later. The vessel sailed back to Iran in late March and left for Russia once again, staying in docks for only a day. The vessel belongs to the Russian company MG Flot, formerly Transmorflot LLC. Last year, the U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions on the company, stating that 16 of its vessels, including the Razul Gazmatov, were transporting weapons for Russia. The company did not respond to requests for comment. The Iranian delegation to the UN and the Russian Defense Ministry also did not respond to requests for comment. U.S. officials state that the I country mainly uses cargo planes to deliver weapons to Russia, making an intervention almost impossible, and taking action in the Caspian Sea would require help from the former Soviet republics located on its coast. So, and again, Russia turned to, this is all part of a big plan. Before we move on, definitely want to remind you, if you don't have extra food and water, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com. You can get a 3-month supply at a discount. In fact, actually right now, they're going to give you a free Alexa Pure Pro water filtration system of a $275 value. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get freeze-dried food that will last over 25 years. And you just have to add water and cook with water, and it will be returned to how it was packaged. That's what's awesome about freeze-dried food. They remove all of the water. It holds in a lot of its flavor, and it is going to last an extremely long time. This is for those of you, again, that want one of the most affordable ways to get a whole bunch of food all at once. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. That's, again, marfooglenews.com/prep. They also have all sorts of other items there, like air filtration, water filtration, which, again, if you get the 3-month supply, you'll actually get that solved right there and then with the free Alexa Pure. And then, of course, they have all sorts of other great stuff. So go check out the top tab. You can go over and check out all the gadgets, anti-radiation pills, all sorts of survival gear. So make sure to go check that out as well. And then at the UN, Russia's Lavrov warns world is at a dangerous threshold. Dex, do you want to go over this?
Well, as we had talked earlier about Lavrov, or Russia specifically, having control of the meeting for the month in of the council, the Security Council at the UN. So the Secretary General has to sit at the side of Lavrov, and they were both making comments today. And of course, the Secretary General says we're at a quote unquote historic high for conflict. In other words, things are not looking really pretty. And then Lavrov interjected that it's actually even more dangerous than it was during the cold conflict. And saying that we're at a much dangerous place and threshold now, much more dangerous place and threshold now than we ever were. So, again, this is just coming out of a UN meeting, the Security Council meeting. Russia's leading it because everybody takes their turn every so often. It's their turn, even though nobody wants to hear from them, or at least they're outnumbered, I should say, as far as support goes at that meeting that they hold. But nonetheless, they, both sides are saying basically the same thing, that we're on the brink of a great, large, significant conflict, and some are saying it's even worse than many people think. So neither one of these sides actually, well, you would think neither one wants to see conflict. So if they're promoting it, then that should be a sign that from their public point of view, it's pretty significant. Now, I know a lot of people question who's in control, who's in charge, and et cetera, and what are their real intentions, and what's fabricated and what's orchestrated versus what's just organic. So put all that in your hat and shake it up and make sure you use plenty of grains of salt. But that's what's happening at the UN right now.
And the obviously the UN is going to be part of anything going forward in the future. A lot of paranoia around what the UN is going to be involved in. By the way, I don't know if there's an argument about pre-trib versus post-trib. Everybody can believe their own stuff. You guys should be able to go, oh, that's what you believe, cool, and then move on. I don't know if that's what's going on, but I think, especially everybody, you don't have to force the post-trib or pre-trib on somebody else. That's the whole point. We should just let people believe what they want to believe, and then if you can get along, then we can all move forward. And mobilization raids in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Russia wants to seize Bakhmut by May 9th, says expert. So again, it says after introducing electronic military serfdom in Russia, a single database of recruits will be created and people will be caught on the streets and taken into the army using any technical means, such as facial recognition software. In fact, it has already begun. Roundups are already being conducted in the main Russian cities of Moscow and St. Petersburg, the Moscow Times has reported. If this is from the Moscow Times, and if they are actually saying this, this sounds like this kind of thing isn't being done for the UKR conflict. This is being done for something bigger. This is actually freaky. It says they're actually catching recruits using a facial recognition system and delivering notice calls to students in dormitories. Although students should not be taken to the army, but in fact they are. They sometimes even break into people's apartments, drag them out, and take them into recruitment centers. At the beginning, the mobilization was voluntary. Of course, there were people who wanted to earn some money or had other reasons. Then they started taking stupid, passive, wordless ones who were told to come to the collection point, as they did. Those that did not resist, and now they will be grabbing the rest. It says, and now some political troubles may come. Russians had an informal agreement with the government. You fight there, we support you. But if you have to go to war, we will no longer support you. And the sweet moment came when they began to recruit those who did not want to go to war. It says, I don't know whether they will gather 300,000 people a month now, as they did in September last year. Most likely not. I think that they will recruit 20 to 30,000 people a month to make up for the losses at the front. but the fact that they will recruit people is undisputable. The losses among conscripts in the battles for Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Vuhledar is tremendous. The Russian army is losing people at a very fast pace, and the losses need to be replenished. So they put in place these draconian measures of looking for people through the video cameras, distributing electronic summonses. I want to reiterate, all military service liable Russians who might find themselves armed in UKR should leave Russia as soon as possible. Flee before it's too late. Absolutely anything is better than killing and dying at the front line. That must be avoided. So it's better to flee. Moreover, there is a terrible shortage of people to maintain the rather long front line and carry out the offensive near Bakhmut, which is still ongoing. The offensive is not halted. Russia is apparently trying to capture Bakhmut by May 9th. Earlier, they really wanted to take Bakhmut before the new year, but failed. Now they are trying to do it by at least May 9th. One of the two roads leading to the city had fallen under Wagner mercenaries' control, according to some Western media outlets. I don't know if it is true. I haven't seen any video evidence yet, but if there is, it is certainly bad news. Not a catastrophe, but not good news. I'm not going to make any predictions about Bakhmut because this city has surprised everyone many times. I think it can still surprise us. I just want to note that Wagner mercenaries and the Russian airborne forces are suffering heavy losses in Bakhmut, not so much because of street fighting, but recently because of UKR army remotely blowing up buildings. Meaning that after the Wagner mercenaries are crammed in a building left by the UKR army, the building is then being blown up, and everyone inside perishes. They can't stop cramming into these houses because there is nowhere else to hide. Firstly, and secondly, 15 people cannot get into a building because they can easily be knocked out. Therefore, if they occupy a building, it means several hundred people at once. Therefore, several hundred are blown up. Wagner is complaining a lot about this UKR's armed forces tactic on their sites and Telegram channels. They say it's not fair. Actually, they might not have attacked and when they wouldn't have had such problems. I think the one thing I pull out of this is that Russia is most likely using this facial recognition to snatch people and to mobilize. It may actually become necessary because I think over there it's more public, that this is going to turn into something bigger, that this is going to turn into a war against NATO. This is the war that everyone knows is going to happen, much like World War II. And of course, when it does happen, and a lot of history is repeating itself in those same ways, I think that if you live in the US or UK, I think a lot of people are going to be kind of hitting the side of the face with how many different countries are actually going to either turn sides, become neutral, or kind of go the other way on this. It's kind of freaky how many countries are distancing themselves from our side. But again, these are some... we don't know what exactly is true here, but I do believe the facial recognition part. Dex, what do you think about the mobilization raids?
Well, a lot of this is coming out of UKR, so we got to take it again with a grain of salt, coming from the opposite side, talking about their adversaries. So, when you read that, it certainly sounds, telling people to flee and get out of the country. It certainly sounds like that kind of tactic. Now, however, they did quote some things, and trying to quote, say, Moscow Times and other things around initiatives that are underway. Again, I think you have to be really careful here, like you said, but if they are really doing this, if they are really mobilizing at these rates, then that is telling, and it may be telling about what's happening in UKR, but it may be more telling about what they're preparing for. That's not UKR, that is with the West and the rest of Europe.
And yeah, I was just trying to find, and there is the actual Moscow Times part of it. Let's see here. Russia is building one of the world's largest facial recognition from the Moscow Times, and that's that it is a state-affiliated, state-funded website. So yeah, so Moscow Times says that they are using the facial recognition as far as this is being used for that purpose. And they're probably going to be using it a whole lot more here soon. All right. And then thank you, by the way. Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys over on DLive. Thank you for holding it down over there. And then thank you, Catherine Wilson. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Ray the Way. It says Judge Dredd remake. So not with Sylvester Stallone. I don't think I've seen that. I did not know that even existed. I will have to check that out. 1901 East White saw a fireproof New York City skyscraper crashing, burning like pitch in SDA Church Testimonies, Volume 9, page 2. End time published late 19th century, 1904 Vision, Nashville Parthenon destroyed by meteor, NFL theme meteor. I'll have to process that. I'll have to look that up though. And then I will have to check out this new Dredd movie. You know what movie I just watched the other day? Cell, and I totally missed it. I've seen all of those kind of movies. I don't know how I missed Cell. It was a 2016 movie with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, I think it's Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah. Or Samuel L. Jackson or somebody else. Yeah, I think it is Samuel L. Jackson. But the movie was based on that the cell phone towers actually put out a frequency, and it made everybody go nuts. I think there's been plenty of movies that have gone down that same road, and I think even Shaun of the Dead may have done the same thing, but it's kind of a freaky thing because now there's technology and actual papers that are saying that is actually even possible, that they could have a frequency that would drive our brains to do certain things, to trigger anger and things like that. So it's kind of a crazy one. I was just surprised I missed that movie. I did not know about it, and I've seen everything. If you're like me, all of the like online on-demand movies, it's like there's nothing to watch you haven't watched 4 times already. And then thank you, Zelda. I appreciate that. Thank you for the massive support today. Appreciate you. Dex, do you want to go over the web only? We've got a lot of crazy stuff here.
Yeah, we certainly do. So if you're new here, head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for today's show, or even easier, just open up the description and click on the show notes link. That's where you'll find the link to this page, as well as all the other links that we have. It's right down there in the description. Easy to get to. On this page, as you scroll down, you'll get to all the news we just covered. So you're looking for the sources of what we talked about. It's there. Then you're going to find this orange bar or yellow bar. It says overflow. That's the rest of the story. So we got a lot more coverage going on. So in addition to Tucker today, Don Lemon was fired from CNN, and that is right after we heard last week of Bongino from Fox. So a lot of shakeup in the media space going on. We do have a little bit of coverage on the Tucker stuff there as well. The Bud Light saga, I guess, is still out there. They're reporting today it's a 17% sales plunge. At least that's what they're saying. So that's kind of that's a pretty significant number for a company to lose 17% of their sales. And I think another person has now taken a leave of absence. So we do have additional updates in here around what's going on in UKR, especially with Wagner's, or also with the Dnepro, and some other stories that kind of go along with that. That's all there if you're looking for it. There was a huge plot of land, or I should say of sand, in Dubai, sold for $34 million. I think this is the one that they sort of dredged up and made an island that they were going to build some sort of property on, whatnot. And I think it just sold, but it's uninhabited at the moment. But $34 million, that's a lot of money for a sand island. That and a whole lot more. So we've got a little bit of the political coverage. So a lot of stuff going on there around, what everybody's thinking for the next round, and who's going to be who's going to play what. T-Man's in there, DeSantis is in there, JB's in there, even some stuff with the current president's son is in the news. That's there. We've got it all. And if you're looking for that, by the way, there's a new hole found. Now, this is not like the hole we found near Cascadia, which was potentially leaking critical lubrication or grease that might help the Cascadia subduction zone not slip as much. But this is in Mexico in the water. They found this massive hole, and if you want to learn more about it, there's all sorts of life forms and stuff that are in there. It's more like an interesting thing, but it's pretty big. They just found it, so that's there. And by the way, if we've talked a lot about the shoplifting that's been going on, and it's in certain places like San Francisco, it is so bad. They have literally glassed off the entire departments. They're just completely gone. You can't even walk up and buy anything off the shelf anymore. You have to ask somebody to come open the glass door to give you the product. So the entire sections of certain targets are now being completely glassed in, or at least those sliding glass lockable doors are being placed on the cabinets. So kind of crazy times we're living in. Of course, a lot of people saw the geomagnetic stuff that was going on. I know we talk about Wages all the time. He's one of our mods and one of our friends. He gave a lot of good updates, and those storms were hitting yesterday and today and getting just a lot of activity in the auroras up north. A lot of states that have never seen them before were able to see them this
Get
time
ready,
around.
folks.
So, yeah.
Get ready. This is
so head over.
No joke.
Absolutely. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down. You'll find all this information. It's in the overflow section. The link is down below in the description. It's called show notes.
Now, Dex, I think that the target stuff, and by the way, the auroras being seen, we're heading into the peak. This is only going to get crazier. This is what people have been worried about for years as far as the peak of solar cycle 25. Be ready for anything. On top of all of the other space stuff that's going on, that is one of the most worrying in a lot of people's eyes. So please be ready. And then that target thing, the more and more research that I do into the dollar and to the collapse that's going on, the shoplifting might also be a cover for what is really happening. There are over 400 chains closing, dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of stores all over the country. Think about how people shop now. Think about the malls, and think about how all of these stores are just disappearing like crazy. And we're talking about big stores are reporting record losses. It's not just theft. I mean, this is inflation. This is the entire system. They closed down for months on end during the CV. It's all coming to bite everybody. You can't just keep borrowing money. This whole system is based on a Ponzi scheme. This is all about to collapse. And even if nothing else happens, even if there's no war, conflict, blah, 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 the war and conflict is because of all this other stuff that's going on. And they're going to keep control through a lot of this. So just be aware. Everything is falling apart here. And a lot of it was from things that were done on purpose and designed to happen. That's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to go over and check out all of the Marfoogle mods over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Lots of great people there. Lots of great creators underneath. Bones, Chance, CJ, Jam, and Lisa, and Rip. Of course, I got to shorten everybody's name. JL Harris, Ilea, and everybody else. Make sure to go check them out. marfooglenews.com/friends. Ilea, I love your beautiful new photo there. That must be AI. This beautiful photo. Love the animation there. And then make sure to go check out Trinity. Go check out Wages channel. Everybody is great over there, so make sure to go do so. All right, let's see here. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you for the Foogle fam. I heard Donna Honey say that it was her mom's birthday. Thank you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Donna. Donna's mom. And then Scooby-Doo Right, thank you, says Beer Juice gotta go back in the shed now. Much love to chat. Dex, Adam, and Mods, great show. Beer Juice, thank you. Beer Juice and Scooby-Doo Right, thank you guys for going back and forth on the Diamond War there. I might have to... I regret letting you out of the shed tonight, Scooby-Doo Right says. Beer Juice wears stockings on Tuesdays. Beer Juice says, oh, hell no. Scooby-Doo says, and little opera glasses. Scooby-Doo Right says, it's hold to hold it down when I have to look at BJ, Beer Juice. And Beer Juice replies, your father was a hamster and your mother was a Beerger says, now you've done it. It's hard to hold it down. It says, you will pay for what you've done. Puts a lotion on his screen. Oh, man, I can't read that. You lie, your breath stink. Coolio smells like rotting fish. Usually one has to go to a bowling alley. I can tell you often. These are all donation back and forth. I'll see you tomorrow, Scoobs, at the very end. That was the funniest fight I've ever seen. You'll have to go over to D-Live to see it. Thank you, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro! I got the bet on the way, I say, I George Argentine and a blow tide. I blow torch Bobby and I Sarah on the barra, WISPN, and I'm crazy from there. Say, safe down in the carol. I call my tracker and the hero. I wait, I bag with at least I might tell. Eyes to the sky, also well. DFW on the jacket. I see all 1969, all the time. I'm bringing now a fine. I say, whoa, lava low, and I bring up that all down, low. Give me that, down. Nothing can hold us. Bring it on the back with my back, on the back around. Back, on the back, on the back. All right, let's make a fresh one for Zelda. Zelda. Zelda.